Hello, good morning, and welcome to Thoughts and Updates. This week I am on the fourth part of the Kirkintilloch Trail, and the place that I'm looking at today is the library. Now, within about 250 paces of this particular trail, I have gone from the town hall down to what is now the museum, which was previously jail, town hall and so on, a marker which is just next to the library, a piece of public art, and now the library itself. Now, this is called the William Patrick Library. It is so after a very significant person to the town. He happened to be educated through the University of Glasgow and the Free Church College in Glasgow, ordained as a minister in 1878, came here from 1878 to 1892. For 14 years, he was minister of the Free St David's Church in Kirkintilloch. He combined both his religion and politics, elected to the Kirkintilloch School Board in 1885, chair until 1891, and was a long life abstainer from drink. In fact, Kirkintilloch Temperance Union was formed by him, and he led the attempt to stop alcohol getting into the town, with quite remarkably Kirkintilloch being a dry town until 1968. It's certainly not a dry town anymore. The idea of a Scottish town not having any alcohol within it sold on licensed premises is quite remarkable, up until the point at which in 1968 is within my memory, insofar as I was born in 1965, so it's in my lifetime. He left Kirkintilloch to become the minister of Free St Paul's Church in 1892. 1900 was in Winnipeg, Canada, and returned to 1911. Died the same year when he was seriously ill upon his return. That's the reason why he came back. And in 1929, David Patrick purchased Campbell House in Kirkintilloch from James Slemon, which he donated to Kirkintilloch Town Council. This was his brother, as a library to be named after his brother. And the William Patrick Memorial Library remained in Campbell House until 1994, when it moved to the purpose-built building, which is just here in 1995, to house it. So, a piece of quite significant history. And this week, what I am particularly concerned about is something which goes back to that idea of abstinence and the idea of having a campaign to stop people doing things, and that removal of kind of free choice in a sense. And of the time of the early 20th century, abstinence was something that was quite popular. Populist people were, in essence, shamed because of their drinking and because of alcohol. Now, as an alcoholic, as somebody who is an addict myself, it's not something I necessarily have a fondness, bizarrely, for, ironically, given the dangers that alcohol poses to us as a community, as indeed to many, many families. I think it's still the case that it kills more people in Scotland, 10 times many more people than illegal drugs do combined. So, as a scourge upon us as a nation, alcohol is clearly an issue. Would I wish it to be banned? No, I wouldn't. Would I wish people to be shamed for being alcoholics? Utterly not. And this week, public shaming has gone itself to a new level within Scotland due to what has happened to Janey Godley. Now, Janey Godley is a very well-known comedian. She fronted the Scottish Government's campaign to stop the spike in COVID-19 due to the number of videos that she placed up on her channels, taking the mickey out of the First Minister, which the First Minister thought was hilarious and fantastic. Her alter ego, she called her, because these voiceovers went viral and still continue to contain the Scottish Government message. But decades ago, Janey Godley put out some tweets which were racist. and highly unfortunate in terms of their tone and indeed of the language used. In fact, one could go so far as to say they were disgraceful, and she's come out and she said, I'm not going to hide behind any kind of apology that's kind of muted all the rest of it. What I said was wrong, it was terrible, it was disgraceful, I'm appalled, I'm very embarrassed, and I'm very, very sorry. She has lost fronting the campaign, she has lost a gig in Aberdeen, she was up there for Panto, and the public shaming has been absolute. Now, Muhammad Ali said that a man at the age of 50 who's the same opinions as he had when he was 20 has wasted 30 years. And I've always believed that, and I hate public shaming. That Janey Godley said something 20, 30 years ago I think is not irrelevant, but only relevant if she still holds the same opinions, and she does not. If we believe that people should be held to account for things that they did 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago, then rehabilitation and redemption for anybody is wrong. That at the age of whatever activity you're engaged in defines the rest of your life. Full stop. You can't escape it. And I work with children who come into care who have significant trauma and indeed accrue a variety of different offences and charges against their name. And if I believe for 1 second that defined them for the rest of their lives, then I'd be a jailer. I wouldn't be a care worker. I wouldn't be working in care. I wouldn't be doing anything in order to help support them change their lives around. I wouldn't have been involved in AA. I wouldn't have been talking to other alcoholics hoping that they were going to redeem themselves. I would be handing them the gun. I think it's different when you have somebody who put out a tweet 20 years ago that was misogynistic, or it was racist, or it was homophobic, and they turn around and they say, yeah, I still believe that. That's different. Then you're dealing with somebody who has to be challenged. But the public shaming of people who said something 20, 30 years ago and are vilified it, by the way, that the types of messages are misogynistic, racist and homophobic, transphobic, in ways that have to be read to be believed at times. And I read recently John Ronson's book all about the public shaming of a woman who was on her way to South Africa. It starts with this story, it goes on to many, many others, but it starts with this story of a woman going off to South Africa, and she tweets something that's a very unfortunate tweet. It's meant to be in humour. And by the time she landed in South Africa, unbeknown to her, this tweet had gone viral, and she was on her way to losing her job, losing her home, losing many friends, all because of 140 characters. So abstinence in Kirkintilloch up until 1968, when it was stopped being a dry town, and the public shaming that went on in terms of getting people to turn their back upon alcohol is something which, in a small scale, the ducking pond, the stocks, the way in which people were treated for the things that they did wrong way back in medieval times, has now come back and it's haunting us. Me, however, I believe in dealing with the person in front of me and not dealing with their past. Till next week, bye for now.